just want to let you know the Air Force and DoD have not endorsed this video. I am retired, so I can wear the uniform. Apologies for the beard. 475 red line, right? 3, 2, 1, hack. Gentlemen, it's noon on 30 January. Thank you for coming. Introductions, you guys all know me. Phil, Stitch, Terry, we got Kamasu on the camera. So roles today. Terry, you're gonna be the ground lead. You got a VHF radio and a Jeep. Stitch, you're gonna be the chase pilot. And Phil, you're gonna be the airborne camera operator. And then Kamasu is gonna be the ground camera operator. So appreciate you guys participating. I have very intentionally picked you guys and nobody else because I wanna really focus on safety today. Speaking of that, everybody has the knock it off hammer. Anybody, please speak up if you're seeing something dumb, dangerous, or different. This is new, right? We're test flying a brand new aircraft, so things will go wrong. Things will go haywire at some point. If they don't, that's great. Boring day is good, but there will be some excitement today. We can scrub this and do it another day, no big deal. Weather today is looking pretty good. I need at least 2,500 foot ceiling. This is personal mins here. Less than 5 knots of crosswind and 10 knots for a gust factor, which we have that. It's a beautiful day out there. The overall risk today is high. The objective is to safely accomplish the first flight of the Bogey and gather data to ensure safe subsequent test flights. So I'm super pumped to be doing that today. Major test points are the brake wear-in, the engine brake-in, and then the high and mid-speed controllability, which we'll get to here in a second. Okay, I've got 28 gallons of fuel on board, which gives me a CG of 35 inches. That's about 32% back in the envelope, right in the sweet spot. I'll have the documents I need on board. The threats today obviously are the unknown, right? Other than what we don't know, we do know CHTs are gonna be a threat, and then traffic is the biggest other threat. And then personally, just lack of tail wheel experience and recency. I've got a lot of things to mitigate that today. All right, primary frequency is gonna be the bend CTAF frequency, and then over the Bogey test frequency is 122.75. Chatter mark, if that gets busy, is gonna be fingers, 123.45. The practice area frequency will, once we switch from bend CTAF and prime radio, we're gonna go 123.3. The base airspeed today, Stitch, is gonna be 120 knots. If I'm anything other than 120, I'll try to let you know, but you can assume that 120 is gonna be the base airspeed. Working in knots today, not miles an hour. Are you okay with that? All right. The first test point really is the major task is the brake wear-in test. The way I'm gonna do that, and per the Matco brakes, they say to accelerate to miles an hour, I convert it to knots, so 35 knots, and apply firm brake pressure to 5 knots. Repeat 2 more times. So I'm gonna take the runway, and COM I'm gonna use as high-speed taxi test so everybody else knows. And then I'm not gonna goose it, I'm just gonna bring up the throttle to accelerate fairly slowly to 35, and then hit the brakes pretty firmly, stick buried, so I don't nose over. That's 5 knots, and then accelerate back again, 35 knots. I'm gonna do that 3 times. Pretty much use most of the runway. It's about 5,200 feet, just about a mile runway, and then I'll clear the runway, taxi back. Probably, depending on what side you're on, Terry, I might ask you where you are. If you're on the west side, I'll taxi Alpha, clear at Alpha X, and then come back north on Alpha. If you're on the east side, I'll come back via Bravo and then blast via Bravo. At that point, you're gonna be airborne. The takeoff profile I'm gonna do is a little bit more aggressively advance the throttle to no more than 2,600 RPM. I'm anticipating getting full throttle at about 2,500 RPM. I haven't fully static tested that thing, so I'm gonna take that data as well. I just gotta be cognizant of not over revving it of 2,700 RPM. I'm gonna accelerate. If I'm feeling comfortable, I'm gonna bring the stick forward and fly the tail wheel up. If I'm not airborne by 60 knots, rotate. That's well above published stall speed. I'm not gonna have any flaps today at any point. And then there's another note to, as I gain airspeed, and if I don't touch the throttle and I'm at 2,700, it's gonna accelerate with me. So that's a note to me to pull the throttle back to maintain max RPM, not to exceed 2,700 RPM. Mixture is going to be pretty much full rich, and really watching the CHTs like a hawk. All right, I'm going to establish about 100 knots in the climb to 5,500 MSL. 4,500 feet, I'll start a gentle, we're on 1/6, gentle right-hand turn, max angle of bank, I'll say 30 degrees angle of bank. Stitch, I want you kind of circling above at about 6,500 feet if you're comfortable with that. Traffic-wise, people come in from all directions. Typically they come in from the east at 5,500 feet to fly over the field, and then either do teardrop or direct entry to right downwind for runway 16. Tons of helicopters on the east side, but they usually stay fairly low. Occasionally people are doing RNAV approaches to both runways, so just heads up on that. But the biggest threat I could see is us being above the airfield is people ingressing at 5,500 feet from the east. Okay. So that's why I want you at about 6,500 feet, okay, or your authority to stray from that. But I'll plan on you having own and deconfliction there. In standard comm, I might be asking you where you're at. Just give me a talk on if you've got it. I'll have ADSB, hopefully get a good awareness. I'm probably pretty much just going to maintain like a 30-degree angle of bank, spiraling up and watching my CHDs, right? I might have to level off for a bit. I would like to not level off at 4,500 feet. That's traffic pattern altitude. If I need to, I'll just fly the pattern and make standard pattern calls. Something that I have an option doing is going to initial. Some people know what that means, and carrying straight through initial as I slowly climb it up, and then we can stop calls, occasional calls of, hey, we're over the top of the field at 5,500 feet doing a flight test, or 6,500 feet. If everything's going well, and I'm comfortable with how it's flying, I'll clear you to rejoin on me. And then again, 120 knots is the assumption, and I'll maintain kind of the standard right-hand turns. I like left-hand turns, but the traffic is right-hand turns. I got great visibility out this thing. I know you don't have the best visibility, so help him clear for traffic. If you see any traffic, I'll let you guys do it in our cockpit brief. But clear for traffic for him. Don't assume he sees anything, and don't get so glom locked onto me. Occasionally, like, take your eyes away from the camera and just kind of scan for other traffic. Again, we kind of talked about what you're looking for. Anything out of the ordinary on me, flight controls that don't look right, something that's fluttering that I haven't noticed yet. I'll tell you what I'm feeling, smelling, hearing. Once we're doing that, my primary goal is to break the engine. So you can be wherever you want after my 3-9 line. We'll just kind of talk real time about what we want to do. Bring it in closer for shots. If I'm comfortable, if everything is feeling good, looking good, we can bring it in to whatever we're comfortable with, as close as fingertip position if you're comfortable with that. But it's first flight, probably not closer than about 2 aircraft. Because who knows, could snap roll off, who knows. Just be cognizant, it's first flight, so give it the respect that it deserves. And then at some point, again, if things are still going well, about 20-30 minutes in, we're just kind of boring holes in the sky and everything's good, then I will go ahead and give you the lead, and then I will lag off. I'm not going to touch the throttle very much, so whatever airspeed we've kind of established, just kind of hold that. Maybe push it up for a few potatoes, let me get into position, I'll lag off, get back in. So this is me. You're going to be in some sort of a position here after my 3-9 line, and then once we're good, and obviously we're visual, Stitch, you got the lead on the right, Stitch has the lead on the right, I'll lag off and then bring it in to formation position on you. And at that point, I'd like to, if we're clear of the traffic, transition to a left-hand turn, which will help out with a lot of the filming that we want to do. If everything is going well and we're able to do this, then we should have plenty of time, right? My goal is to fly for about an hour. Stitch, are you okay with that? If you need to land for fuel or for whatever reason, by all means, go ahead and land. But I'd like to shoot for an hour airborne just to break in this engine. I'll talk about things that will cut us short here in a second. BD check. We're essentially doing BD checks the whole time, right? So I'm not gonna do yet another BD check. Joker fuel in the military means either time or a fuel state that prompts you to move on to the next phase of the mission. So for today, it's either 1 hour fuel or my wing tanks are empty. We're gonna climb to the highest reasonable altitude of the airfield. So that could potentially be like 8,500 feet if we feel comfortable doing that. And then controllability check, not a full Eagle controllability check. I'm gonna slowly reduce the power and level flight to slowly bring the CHTs down to mid 350 degrees if able, and then gently decelerate to no slower than noted safe flying airspeed at takeoff. So remember, it was about a 60 knot rotate, so I'm not going to go any lower than 60 or whatever that airspeed was. If unknown, if I wasn't able to process that because I got a handful of aircraft flying the takeoff, I'm going to treat my bottom airspeed to 65 knots. If that's too slow for you, feel free to just maneuver as required, but my focus has to be on just flying the aircraft. So I'll let you own deconfliction there. If you need to set altitude deconfliction, we'll talk about that at that time. And then I'm just getting a feel for what that's going to be like in preparation for landing. I'm not going to touch the flaps. If I, just like the Eagle, if I do get half scale deflection on any flight control required, I'm going to note the airspeed and stop decelerating, and then I'll accelerate. And I'll treat that as my, you know, airspeed that I'm not going to decelerate below until I'm in the landing phase. Okay. So I'm going to note that airspeed, and then we'll get set back up in the pattern, clearing and making the standard radio calls, probably just over the top, just join a downwind. Again, if you can chase me through that, that'd be awesome. I will accelerate back up to, you know, something that makes sense, maybe about 80 knots or so, and then we'll rejoin the pattern, and then it's essentially just a fairly tight pattern, but I don't want to exceed 30 degrees angle of bank, but this thing will turn on a dime at 30 degrees angle of bank. So you can chase me through that or whatever you're comfortable doing. But I'll go ahead and execute a landing. How I'm going to do that is pretty much maintaining that airspeed on final from 80 to about 65, let's call it, and then flying that to about, you know, less than 10 feet above the numbers, and then just get stabilized, and then start slowly descending as well as decelerating. And I'm not going to hesitate to go around. And then hopefully I'm going to touch the main wheels down, and I'd like to execute a wheel landing, so I'm going to bring the stick forward and fly the tail wheel up, and then slowly bring it to the ground as I decelerate. If I do make a 3-point landing, I'll accept that and just maintain directional control, primarily obviously with rudder / tail wheel steering, differential brakes, adhering to crosswind controls. Talking through this so I'm processing it as well. All right, my LTP, my latest touchdown point, is going to be 3,000 feet. That's a little long. If you're seeing me, or either one of you seeing me midfield and I haven't touched down yet, it's looking like I'm trying to land, then go ahead and say recommend you now. I'll go ahead and do that. So back me up on that. Taxi back's going to be fairly expeditious. Again, minimize the non-stress part of the engine, so I don't want it just idling. And then at shutdown, I'm going to note the RPM rise. At shutdown, I should see 30 to 50 RPM rise, and then I can adjust the idle mixture from there. I'm gonna grab all the devices, shut down everything, and then a thorough post-flight inspection will probably happen tomorrow because we've got, you know, you gotta get out of here, and then I've got an appointment, and then Ani's gonna bring some champagne, so hopefully we'll be popping some champagne before we depart. And if you're flying home, sorry. We'll get some Martinellis for you. Constant ops checks going on. Stitch, if you see me kind of watching you because you got the lead and I'm just like glom locked onto you, you know, maybe just say, hey, recommend ops check, or just say ops check. And I'll do the zipper click. I won't respond with anything, but that'll cue me in, hey, oh yeah, I'm just flying formation. Let me take a peek in, make sure my RPM's not above 2,700 RPM, make sure my CHTs are below red line. Red line is incredibly hot. I never fly the Bogey or the Bonanza above 380, and now I'm going to be like almost 100 degrees above that. These have some, I've got some modifications to help with cooling, but regardless, I'm going to see some hot CHTs. I was hitting 400 on a ground run the other day. That's the flow around the room. Terry, what questions you got?
I don't know what your thoughts were, where you're going to break out initially to start your climb.
Break out? I'm not going to break out. I'm just going to stay in a right-hand pattern, spiraling up above.
Okay, so you're going to start climbing.
Yeah, we're going to essentially stay, geographically, we're going to stay above the field. If everything is going well and we're changing leads and we're doing some filming and stuff, then Stitch, I'm okay with us expanding our radius, especially if we're higher. Yeah. My glide ratios, not actually, yours is slightly better than mine, about 10.5 to 1. Mine's only about 9 to 1. Okay. So I'm comfortable staying within gliding distance. Yep. The other contingency is if the plane is flying well, but I'm struggling to get 75% horsepower, we might break out of the pattern towards the practice area and get down a little bit lower to some thicker air to be able to generate that 75% horsepower is kind of what I'm looking for. If you want to follow me, if you're comfortable following me doing that, that's fine. Otherwise, just stay up and help clear for me as I break in the engine.
Everyone at Leading Edge knows when someone lands long, they sit there and gripe and grumble, but take all the runway you want so people aren't anticipating.
Yeah, people behind me are not of my concern today.
You started off with emergency, basically your best glide 59 knots. I'm not going to be able to hang out, so I'll just set up like a high-speed orbit. And,
yeah, dude, at that point, I'm EP, just kind of...
Yep, I'll get away and try to help you where I can. For squawk, I'll carry my squawk, but I found sometimes it's a little bit distracting. So once we get rejoin, I'll probably go to standby. Okay. So you'll be the primary squawker, and I'll strangle mine. I think my biggest threat will probably just be if my motor gets a little bit warm,
Mm-hmm.
and in that case, I might just like push it up and do like a lap, but
Yeah,
everything should be okay.
Yeah, you do what you need to do on that.
Do you think he'll get the best shots sitting in the cockpit or in the back seat?
Yeah, if both of you are comfortable with Phil being in the alternate location, then absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, because he's got seats that face backwards. That airplane is used a lot with the doors off as a photo bird.
Okay.
So it's a great platform for that. Doors won't be off today, but the seats are oriented such that you can face forward or backwards. So
Is there anything I should know about like moving around?
Yeah, we'll talk about it in there, yeah. But you'll have a cordless headset, so it shouldn't get all.
That sounds great. Do you have any vision of particular shots you're looking for?
you can tell him to tell me where to go. Fly my airplane.
Yeah.
What's your max focal length?
300.
Oh wow! If we could get the Cascades in the background, that'd be cool too. A shot of where I just kind of break away, and then I'll take a while to rejoin, of course. But and then also with a bunch of stills, a shot of the belly, if I'm comfortable doing this. I'm not gonna go much more than 30 degrees angle of bank, so I might climb it up a little bit, get stabilized here, and then go 30 degrees angle of bank so you can see my belly, and then everything else is pretty much up to you. You're gonna spend the initial bit behind me, so you'll probably be, in maybe the back row facing forward, and at that point, don't fly my airplane. At that point, that's early on in the flight, and I'm just making sure that this airplane is flying well. But you can fly his airplane and say,
you can
hey,
tell me where to go.
can you move a little bit to the right? Because he's, I need a little bit more. I need him more in the center of this window versus like he's right on this bulkhead or something. So if he scoots out to the right, that can clear him up. So yeah, you guys can have some inner cockpit comm to sweeten up or tighten up a shot. Fellas, thanks again for coming. This is going to be exciting one way or the other, and it may not be. It might be boring, but we might scrub it.
Boring is good.
Boring.
Yeah, boring actually would be. Yeah.
When the world gets dark,
Should be fun, dude.
let the light shine in.
Seen anything bad?
I'm just looking at the interior. I haven't seen it since you quit.
Yeah, I didn't put the front interior in just so I can see flight controls and see if anything's binding and whatnot. But
So you can hook shit back up when it comes.
Yeah, you got the Leatherman with you?
Oh yeah, no shit. I mean, a friend of ours had his rudder cable come off over Haystack, and he reached down and took his shoelace out. After cut.
oh my gosh, no shit.
Well, first he gained altitude.
Hey, if you want to join me in the cockpit for a super immersive ride, grab your VR goggles and watch the full flight and look wherever you want. I'll leave the link here and in the description.
Adventure starts. We all breathe the same with our beating hearts. Ooh, tell me that it's worth the wait, 'cause now I'm dreaming wide awake. This is
Clear.
time.
Look, here's the background on this flight test program. Instead of simply doing the old long-standing 40-hour fly-off for an experimental amateur build, I'm an early adopter of the brand new option to execute a task-based flight test program, which I think is a way smarter, safer, and more efficient way of getting an airplane ready for a long, rewarding service life. That means that when I'm done with this program, phase 1 will be complete and I can start my backcountry adventures. But as one of the first builders to go through this new process, the flight test program I've designed is informed by 3 sources. 1, my experience in flight test. 2, Advisory Circular 90-89 Revision C, which is just awesome. Go download it. I'll leave a link in the description.
Bend traffic, experimental 223, Charlie Delta taken runway 16 for high-speed taxi test, bend traffic.
And number 3, the EAA Flight Test Manual and Test Cards version 1.1. Now, don't rush out and buy those since they're under revision. In fact, I'm helping the Experimental Aircraft Association refine version 2.0, and I'll let you know when they're released. But of course, I'll be documenting everything the entire way. Now, I'm always open for constructive feedback on everything from the video format to the test plan and execution. Now, I have experience testing fighter jets, missiles, and radars, but this is totally new to me and I'm learning right alongside you. Even more exciting is that this is truly the first time I have no one to blame for the build quality and maintenance of an airplane I'm flying my own pink body in, which is why this is so intense for me. I have so much respect for aircraft mechanics and crew chiefs after this whole experience. All right, now let's get to the good stuff. Test is good.
Ready.
Bad traffic. Backcountry Bogey, experimental 223, Charlie Delta, take in runway 16 for test flight. Will remain above the field. Bad traffic, Skyline 36 Yankee Yankee on the downwind for runway 16. Alright, 55, airborne.
Oh, he's airborne!
Firewall 2650, looking good. DHT is good. RPM a little high. Coming back. RPM's coming back. Happy. High oil pressure. Not bad though. Alright, 90 knots. Then traffic experimental 3, Charlie Delta, turn in right, crosswind runway 16. We'll stay over top the field. Experimental 223, Charlie Delta is right downwind runway 16, 5,000 climbing to stay over top the field. 6,500 rejoin with the Bonanza. 455 is my highest. 80, I need to get 90, come on, get 90. Bogey test, turn in right, base runway 16, but at 5,600 feet climbing.
What's your power?
Power is showing about 65%. Vent traffic Bogey is high initial 6,200 climbing over top the field.
Traffic, 6 o'clock, high, less than 1 mile.
3 Charlie Delta 6 November Hotel has you visual and loud and clear with the ground crew in you.
You're clear, rejoin. Bogey making a right-hand turn, departure in. Yeah, I need to pitch the prop more. She's wanting to do 2,700 RPM, about mid-throttle. Bogey coming right.
Bogey ground support comm check.
I got somebody quiet but clear.
6 November Hotel has ground support line clear.
All right.
Copy, thank you.
Hey Darren, dumb question. How do you turn up the volume on remote radio here? I only see my intercom volume.
So on the G3X on the top, there should be an audio.
Yeah, I'm on the audio page.
So there's no volume.
I'm only seeing ICS volume. Let me go back to radio. Hang on.
Hey Steve, what are your temps doing?
Well, temps low 400s, but I got the throttle pulled back a little bit because she was supposed to climb, and I'm going to break out to the east and get a little lower and push it up, I think.
Yeah, I mean the only other thing, you can't pitch that thing either, so you can go wide open.
All right, I finally got the volume figured out. Hey Stitch, I'm going to make a left-hand turn here and head a little bit out to the east so I can descend some. All I got traffic out to the east, about 1300 low, in sight, white. We'll stay high until we're past that traffic. No factor, starting our descent. Ben traffic, the experimental test flight is working our way out to the practice area out east. We'll be back in 15. I'm gonna head down to about 5,500, or maybe even lower, depending on how much power I can generate.
You guys can take North Point if you want.
Aircraft nice and stable, 100 knots, first time passing 100 knots. All right, bogey flight, let's switch over to 123.3 prime. All right, 4,500 feet, I'm gonna push it up. Stitch, you good? Ben practice area, test flight 223 Charlie Delta, flight at 2 out in the practice area, maneuvering at 4,500 feet.
East practice area, Skyhawk 734, Bravo Bravo, is about a mile north of Alfalfa, 7,000 maneuvering.
Okay, we're about 2,000 feet below you, maneuvering at 4,800 at test flight, that's 2.
You guys could be hanging over Alfalfa. We were going to do some steep spirals, so we're just looking for an area.
Yeah, we're going to turn back to bend pretty quick.
No worries.
All right, Bogey, starting a left-hand turn. We'll cut this short because I can't generate the power I need. I need to repitch the prop. But I do want to get some shots. We'll keep this left-hand turn coming, and then we'll kind of head southwest, so we'll maneuver a little bit further south of the airfield for some lead changes up a little higher. We'll climb back up to 5,500. Holding 80 knots, sorry.
You're going to stay at 80?
I'm just pretty much playing the RPM game right now, whatever it gives me. I guess I could pitch for 90 to keep the CHDs cool. Yeah, because they're getting warm. So let me pitch for 90.
3 Charlie Delta, you got traffic. You're left 8 o'clock, 2,000 feet above for about 2 miles.
Okay, copy that. Yeah, I talked to him. We're going to hopefully stay out of his way. He's going to maneuver spiral down here over Alfalfa. Yeah, I got to stay at about 80, sorry. Once we level off, we can do whatever speed you need. We'll climb up to 6,500. We'll lean a little more west away from that traffic. Okay, there's 65. I'll accelerate to, let's see if I can get to 100. I'm not sure if I can with this prop pitch this way. Stitch, pause it. Sorry, I got a sticky mic switch. I know it.
Right 4 o'clock.
Radio check.
2 Azure 11 clear.
Okay, I switched over to the right stick so I'm not so sticky. But I guess when we get to the pattern, I might have to calm jam everybody so I don't have to take my hands off the stick. But for now, I'm transmitting using the right stick. And if you could start working your way up towards line abreast, I'll give you the lead.
And what airspeed do you want me to hold? What's comfortable for you?
Well, comfortable's 80 if you are.
I'll drop my bed.
Sorry, I know it's so slow. Okay, I got you in sight. Stitch, you got the lead on the right.
6 November Hotel has a lead on the right. You want me to keep going straight or do a right turn?
Let's see. Left turn would probably be better for me if that's okay with you.
Yeah, come easy left. East Practice area, Sky 734 Bravo is 1 mile south of Alfalfa doing speed spiral.
What's your power percentage, Steve?
Only about 50. I'm gonna bring it back home pretty soon.
Copy that.
I was answering Darren. He was asking what my power percentage was.
You want me to keep the left-hand turn coming? I'm blind.
Yeah, I'm at your right. I got deconfliction. I'm at your right 430. And yeah, left-hand turn would be good, and then we'll head for home.
Visual. Rolling out. 3 Charlie Delta, if you want to take the lead on the right and do a breakaway to the right.
Okay, 3 Charlie Delta has a lead on the right, and breakaway 3, 2, 1. Continuing right, I'm going to fly over the top of the field at 5,500 and do a normal pattern entry direct to landing. I'm not going to do a controllability check. Hey, Bogey, ground crew, are you guys set up to film a landing? Alright, I'm just going to go back to CTAF now, prime 123.0.
Helicopter 3040 Kilo, picking up, leading edge, heliport, spot number 5, transitioning to Charlie taxiway, bed traffic.
Bed traffic, experimental 3 Charlie Delta is 5 miles to the east. At 6,000 we'll descend over to fly the field 5,500 and join a right downwind for runway 16, full stop, bed. Bend traffic, experimental backcountry bogey over top of the field, 5,500, joining a right downwind for runway 16, full stop, bend.
R22 Charlie 4, we're in a auto rotation right now.
Bend traffic, experimental 3 Charlie Delta, right base, runway 16, full stop, bend.
500.
Bend traffic. Bogey 3 Charlie Delta is a 1 mile final, runway 16, full stop.
6 November Hotel is Chase, will be low approach 16, then traffic.
Then traffic, South 020, right downwind 16, full stop.
Traffic, helicopter 3040 Kilo, on the go, Bravo, parallel 16, left close traffic, bend.
Then traffic, Bonanza November 16, November Hotel is turning right crosswind, runway 16, bend.
Bend traffic, helicopter 105, Lima Echo, clear of the helipad, taxiing back to northeast over.
Traffic, Bonanza November 16, November Hotel, right base, runway 16, then traffic.
Hello. Success. She flies. Oh man, that was intense. We need to pitch that prop. I couldn't generate very much thrust. It wanted to go to 2,700 RPM without a ton of power.
You came in pretty freaking hot.
I know.
Like you're flying a jet.
See me slipping in at the end.
Yeah.
A couple knots for mom and the kids. I haven't done any slow speed tests, so I didn't want to wing drop it off.
You don't know
on
when it's
me.
gonna start.
Totally. So I just wanted to fly it down to the runway and then
grease it on hot.
Yeah.
No, good job, man. Got her. So your CHTs were in the low 400s?
Yeah, they got up to like 450 in the climb. And then, but you know, I had to pull the throttle back to manage the RPM. Guys, you made it to the end, except there's one more thing. The most important thing about any flight test or instructional flight is the debrief, right? So let's quickly debrief this. The flow is going to be, we're going to talk about the success of today. We're going to learn things from it. We're going to fill you in a little bit on some information that you may not have gleaned from the video. I'm going to show you a very, very cool tool you may not know about. And then we'll get into kind of what's next for flight test card number 2. So jumping right in, mission objective was to safely accomplish first flight. Yes, we absolutely achieved that. It was a success beyond measure. And once again, thank you to my crew. That was huge. It meant a lot to me that you supported me in that way. So the major test points, the brake wear in, we absolutely achieved that. I noticed a lot more grip on the brakes. I could hold the brakes at much higher static RPM than before. And then the engine brake in, no, not achieved. And this brings in the tool that I want to show you guys. So Garmin G3X, if you enable data logging and put in an SD card in there after a flight, it's going to upload all this data to the SD card. And you can go to this free service. I'm not sponsored or affiliated in any way by Savvy Aviation, Mike Bush. They have this service where you can upload all the data and parse through it. So let's quickly show you some features of it and we'll get back into the debrief. So this is the Maiden flight. And what we've got here is, well, first of all, you can see your flight map. So you can kind of see where you are. If you click on something over here, it actually shows you where you are in the flight. So I was right there. And then you can just kind of compare all sorts of data and do some of your analysis over on here. But I digress. Let's actually turn this guy off. This is the beginning of the flight. This is the end of the flight. And here's what you can select. All this data is available for you to look through. So what I've got right here is engine power, because that's very, very important today. So I generated that, taking off, but then very quickly I had to pull the throttle and struggled to get over 75% RPM, and you can verify that. You can also see all your CHTs, make sure you didn't go over red line. You can zoom in, just look at, let's say, for example, this period right there, and really get to the nitty-gritty detail. You can overlay data such as how CHTs relate to fuel flow, for example, so you can kind of compare. So huge amount of data here, and that's so valuable. And I went to my RPM and make sure I didn't overspeed. That's enough on this. Potentially we'll get more into this in the future, but let's get into the big picture items. So engine brake in, the pitch of the propeller was only 13 degrees. That's in kind of a stall configuration. The root cause of why I didn't dial that in a little bit better, I think this is important to talk about, is my perception, right? It was a human factor, or a knowledge-based thing. So I didn't realize that dynamic airspeed increases the propeller more than I gave it credit for. And this is going to depend upon what airframe you're flying, right? If you have a Lance Air, static versus dynamic, that range is a lot more than if you're flying a Kit Fox or Rans. So, but regardless, it was more than I gave it credit for. So what that means is that I gave it the static RPM and I saw about 2,500, and I thought that was good. Well, turns out I could have probably revved it to 2,900, which would have been really bad. So I pitched it to 17 degrees, so that I brought it back down to about 2,200 RPM. I thought that was too little. I didn't think I was going to be able to generate the power. Well, turns out I think static RPM I'm shooting for now is about like 2,100 RPM. So I need to pitch it to maybe 18, 19 degrees. So if you have something to get you started, i.e., in my case, the Whirlwind OEM manufacturer's instructions recommend, for stall, start at 13 degrees, don't start at stall. Do long-range cruise. You want to generate as much horsepower and airspeed as you can and maintain that. Suffice to say, you want to generate the heat, the friction, that manifold pressure to break down the honing inside the cylinders. You don't want to glaze the cylinders. So the last test, mid and high speed controllability. We didn't actually go through the test plan point by point, but I give that green achieved that major test point because I did glean a lot of information about its mid and high speed controllability just by flying it and then slowing it down enough to land it, even though it was a fairly high speed approach as planned, and more to come in the low and mid speed later on. Okay, so other notes that you may not have gleaned. All right, you definitely would have gleaned this if you're watching the long form version. Radio 2 volume control. It was a human factors nightmare in the moment, but right now I'm glad it ended up okay. And it's just like, oh, wow, man, I designed the whole electronic schematics and I configured all the buses and everything. I was good on the back end and configuration mode on this G3X Touch. I had no idea how to turn up the volume on Radio 2, which is a remote radio, so there's no physical knob, obviously. So 0 knots 1G seems easy, but a handful of brand new airplane and a lot of different things, especially bend to CTAF going on. I'm gonna go through the avionics before my next flight and really learn the system a little bit better. So good lesson learned for me. All right, the horizontal stabilizer incident. So I looked back when I was at max speed at my horizontal stabilizer in the elevator, and it was, my elevator trailing edge was pointed down, right? So I trimmed that out, super easy to trim. Nothing is extreme, by the way. We're talking very, very close. But I'm excited because, so if I raise the leading edge of the horizontal stabilizer, I won't need as much down elevator to maintain level flight at cruise, which will streamline that whole flight control surface and get a couple extra knots out of the thing, and it'll fly better. But I'm not going to do that until I expand the CG envelope of this aircraft. So right now we're like a third back, right? So I want to do some more forward CG stuff. It's a little bit safer. And then later on in the test program, expand the CG envelope aft, a little bit more risk there. So after I do that, then I'll come to a conclusion on what I need to adjust that horizontal stabilizer incidence. The idle mixture test. So I've been on all my previous engine runs, I've been trying to dial this in. You're looking for a 50 RPM rise when you slowly pull the mixture to idle cutoff when you're at idle, and looking for about a 30 to 50 RPM rise, and finally dialed that in. So I was really happy about that. And then as you notice, the GoPro versus the G3X frame rate is incompatible. I wasn't wearing that GoPro just for the video. I'm recording that so that I can watch things real time. And of course now I'm realizing that all that data is being recorded and I can look back that way, so it's less of a deal. But I want to figure out what the G3X frame rate is and program my GoPro to be more compatible with that. All right, so what is next? Test card 2, so 18-degree prop pitch and continue to break in the engine. Spoiler alert, I've flown this airplane 2 more times at 17-degree pitch, and the horsepower is fantastic and engine break-in is going super well. My 450 CHTs are down to the low 420s, so a little bit further to come. We're gonna work on some flap operation, test that, and then do a rough pitot static check, and then some more longitudinal control tests, and then wings level stalls. So that should be super exciting. Also, perforated vinyl. I had some perforated vinyl to match the top and to bring these cool checkerboards through the skylight. And also the other feature of it is to protect me from the UV rays, keep the cockpit cooler. So a lot of reasons I want to do that. And then the stripes through the doors, I'm having those printed as well. All right, final thought here, and this is an important one, so listen up. Flight test is obviously a very serious business, and this was an intense video, and I thank you for watching it all. But do not think that you can't do this, right? Yeah, I have the experience, and I'm going kind of above and beyond for a couple different reasons. One, that's just kind of how I operate. My kids would call me a little extra, I think. But I'm using my experience as an F-15 operational test and evaluation pilot to flush out this new task-based process in hopes to make it more refined and easier for you. That said, I am super eager to read your comments to learn how I can improve both the format of this video series as well as if you have input on the flight test program. I'm all ears. I'm learning just like you. I'll let you to it. Lights on. Till next time, you're cleared direct. Successful first test flight. The Bogey has a soul. Woo!